To walk through the exhaust situation I have. Now this car is using a 4-inch oval exhaust. I wanted to try to maximize the ground clearance, and if I come up level with the floor here, you can see it hangs just barely below that frame rail. Now originally, when I had this exhaust made, I wanted a V-band, and the people that created it put a V-band right here, which of course went on a round tubing, and it hung way down below. And several times I shaved the bottom of that V-band off when I bottomed out. And I got tired of it, and it was a poor setup. So what I did here is I actually went back on the other side of the jack and did oval tubing all the way up to a 4-inch round 120-degree bend. And I put that round piece in the vise, and I squeezed it down until it matched the oval as close as I could. So even though that's straight up now, it comes up close to the engine, actually too close. So let's take a look at the engine bay. Okay, so here we are in the engine bay, and you can see that it's coming up right behind the steering there. It was pretty tight fit to go between the transmission and the body right here. So I came up right before the bell housing. Now I had to put a 20-degree bend in there, and naturally things don't line up. This is the downpipe. It was modified pretty heavily. The radius, it used to come out, it was a diamond eye downpipe. It used to come out almost to a 45. So I did pie cuts in here, I squeezed it together, and then I went ahead and welded and sanded that down. So now looking at this, we can see that this is almost a straight up and down in this direction. If we look at it at the back, it is not, but I put a pie cut in here, so now this is almost a angle that is parallel to the floor. However, I have a compound angle on the exhaust pipe coming up. So let's talk about how I'm going to fix that. Here we can see the lower part of the exhaust. This will hook up to the exhaust pipe. I like using V-bands. I can get a nice tight fit, and it's easy to disassemble. However, I want them in a place where they're not going to hit the body, the engine, or the ground. So as you saw from the video, it's kind of below the exhaust manifold. So it'll be in a place that's easy to loosen and disconnect. And I can take the downpipe off, and then of course I could just drop the exhaust under the car. So how am I going to get all those angles? Well, I made a bunch of these pie cuts. So I have a miter saw here, 12-inch DeWalt saw. All I did was I set my angle to 4.5 degrees. And if I make these cuts to 4.5s, that's a 9-degree angle, and 10 of these will give me a 90. So if we line these up, see that with enough space, of course, I can achieve any angle I need to. And there's plenty of videos on YouTube about how to make pie cuts, so we don't need to go through all that here. But I will give you what I did. So I just took my 4-inch exhaust tube, I made a line on one side, called it A, did a line on the other side, called it B. The reason I did this is, even in making this video, I got interrupted 2-3 times, so I wanted to keep track of where I was in this process, even though it's easy enough to figure it out. So what I would do is I'd come down, I'd take my tape, I'd measure an inch, make a mark, be in here somewhere, and I'd bring the saw down, I'd rotate the cut so it was on that the cross line, and then I go ahead and make my cut. So on my pie cuts, the mark on the side is actually perpendicular to the other axis. So that was easy, and then between cuts I just go ahead and flip it, and then if I got interrupted I just remember where I was. If I took it off I just remember where it was. But if I couldn't remember, of course it's easy enough, just bring the saw down, and here I can tell I need to flip it to the other side, not a big deal. So now it's a matter of assembling these pie cuts in a way that gives me the downpipe that I need, and we'll check that out after I mock it up. Alright, so here we see all those pie cuts, and I just lined them up the best I could, twisted them in the kind of like a puzzle, just twisted them until I achieved all the angles I needed. There was one in here that was a little different, and actually there's two. This one brings it perpendicular to the floor, or parallel to the floor, and then this one's kind of just a bigger filler piece. But for the most part, the rest of those are the pie cuts like I showed you how to make. Now down below here, I am going to have to put a little relief in my exhaust where it's hitting the bell housing, and that'll be pretty easily accomplished with a socket extension and a mallet. But it doesn't need much. I just don't like anything touching, so I'm kind of picky about that. Don't want any vibrations. And I'm also going to make a mount that comes off this bolt and comes over to the center of my downpipe here. That way it's secure. So it's a hard connection to the engine, and it's a rubber mount to the body of the car. So that will keep it from rattling as well, along with the relief. And then of course the body will suppress any vibrations through those rubber mounts. So tomorrow it's off to welding up those pie cuts and trying to clean up the welds without burning a hole through the pipe. And that is about it for the compounds, other than the oil supply line and the drains.